All right. Hi, everybody. I'm JD Bryden with the Conservative Union, the Free Radical Network, and the Party of Choice. Today, I am joined by Brian Goldberg, a Republican candidate for Senate in the state of New Jersey. Thanks, Brian, for being here. I really appreciate you showing up.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. I'm happy to speak with you.
Awesome. Before we get into the interview itself, I just want to go over why we're doing these interviews here at the Conservative Union. Um, we've had some mishaps recently with some Senate candidates. I won't mention any names, but suffice it to say, there was really not sufficient vetting in the primary. So to help alleviate that problem a little bit, we at the Conservative Union want to interview as many primary candidates from across the country as we can
Okay.
to help give the conservative primary voter better access and information about who it is that will eventually go on to, run against the
Right.
Democrats in November.
Okay.
All right, and also to give people in states that don't necessarily have Senate races this year a chance to see some candidates, some really good candidates from outside of their state that they might want to support and endorse.
Okay.
But with that said, Brian, let's go with the usual interview stuff. Let's hear about you. Who are you, and why are you running for Senate in the state of New Jersey?
Okay. Well, I'm a 40-year-old businessman. I live in West Orange, New Jersey, which is in Essex County. I actually grew up in Monmouth County in Marlborough and went to Freehold High School. And I have a business in Middlesex County. It's my family's decorative concrete business. So this actually will be our 30th year. We're pretty proud of that. Started by my dad, although I did do my fair share of pouring concrete when I was a kid. Now I'm the administrator. I run the business, and I should say I have run the business. Excuse me. I have spent the past few months transitioning away from my day-to-day operational role so that I can focus on the Senate race.
Awesome.
Uh,
No, please continue.
Yeah, no. So I'm running. I've been very active in politics, but as a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. I've done all the grassroots stuff. I've sat in the rooms making phone calls. Done that. I've done the door-to-door. I've volunteered at events. I was a treasurer for a freeholder race, so I had that official role. And I've always been a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. I've been on my county committee for 10 years, but this is the first time that I'm actually running for an office of this type. So I looked around and I said, if I'm going to be able to provide the effort that I think is necessary to do the job as an elected official, I need to do it full time. Because of the constraints of running my business right now or in the past, I could not focus well on that and on running, or actually, assuming I can get elected, on holding the office and performing the duties that are needed. So I looked and I said, what could I do that would be a full-time opportunity? Because right now, the state legislature in New Jersey, it's a part-time position. If I ran for town council or something along those lines, those are part-time positions. And like I said, I didn't think that I could balance that very well. I wouldn't be able to serve the people well, and my business would suffer. So I needed something that would make it worth the while to transition away from my day job. And the first thing I did think about was Congress, running for the House. And I live in Rodney Frelinghuysen's district, and I'm a proud supporter of Congressman Frelinghuysen. So I did not want to primary him. I think there is someone running against him in the primary right now, or trying to at least. But no, I've been a big supporter of his. I was very, very happy when we were redistricted away from Bill Pascrell. I sort of cut my chops on those uphill battles. I was involved in 3 congressional races to try to oust Bill Pascrell. Unfortunately, he has a strong base of support in the northern part of the district. So that we did not win those elections. I learned what it's like to fight an uphill battle. And like I said, I was very happy when we were redistricted. So anyway, moving on, I looked around and I said, well, I guess I could run for governor. That's certainly a full-time job. But just ask Barbara Bono how that went. So besides the fact that I do support our governor, I had no intention of going up against Chris Christie last year. That would have just been crazy. As I said, I'm sure Barbara Bono can comment at length. She probably wouldn't want to talk to the Conservative Union, but she could probably comment on that. So I've actually had my eye on this race for about 3 years. When Frank Lauenberg was in the middle of his term, I looked at it and I said, either he might be crazy enough to try to run for another term. I mean, if you remember, he actually retired years ago and came back when there was a whole debacle with Bob Torricelli.
Yeah, yes, I was a part of that situation. That's
Okay.
a mess.
it was a travesty. Is probably a better word than debacle.
Yes.
The state Supreme Court came in and just threw the rules out the window. But anyway, he came out of retirement. So here's a guy. He was around for a very long time, and I said, look, if he tries to run again, or if he retires and it's an open seat, I think I'm going to want to run. And I started putting some small pieces together for that in terms of some people to help me, reaching out to people across the state. And last June, as you know, he sadly passed away unexpectedly. And at that time, we had a special election coming up, and I had 1 week to get 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot. I talked to some people. It took me about 3 days to get there. And after talking to people, I decided to do it. And unfortunately, I only had 3 days left. And in those 3 remaining days to get signatures, I did get 600 signatures in 3 days. So
That's impressive. That is very impressive.
I'm very proud. I also got a sunburn from standing outside at the Seafood Fest in Belmar for about 6 hours straight. And as a Senate candidate, I wasn't going to wear a baseball cap. It didn't look good. I don't know if you can tell. I usually wear a baseball cap when I'm out in the sun. So I needed to get those signatures. I got the 600. It wasn't enough, but I did start to build that base of support. And I certainly supported Mayor Lonigan when he ran because I'm a party supporter. I thought it was very important that we had to try to keep Cory Booker from going there. Mr. Booker did win, so now we need to make him one and done. That's how I like to talk about it. We're going to make.
I love the way that you put that. That you were that you supported Lonigan. You are a party supporter. That's very important. I think, and I know that certainly the Conservative Union feels that way. We need to stay cohesive as a party in order to actually win elections. We need to, if that means bringing all of the various facets of the party together.
Absolutely.
I just want to transition into a few single issue.
Okay.
Go on that and get your stance on that real quick. We won't focus too much on this. There are better questions, and you've already answered these, I'm sure, a million times. So real quick, how do you feel about immigration reform, and is there ever is amnesty ever on the table?
It's the last step in a very long chain of events. Most importantly, first, we need to secure the borders, not just for immigration policy, but for policy dealing with national security. How can we have porous borders that are letting people come in? We don't know who they are, how they're getting here, or allow people to come in under things like vacation-type visas, and then we don't keep any track of where they went, how they are, or if they ever left the country. So the first, most important thing is we need to secure the borders, make sure that more people are not coming here unexpectedly and illegally.
Awesome.
Beyond that, then we look at the people who are in their own countries at their embassies applying properly, and we make sure that they get processed first, and we take care of all of them. And then at the end of that long line, if there are people here that are here already and they did make a conscious decision to come to the land of the free and to join us, then we will see what we can do about helping them become Americans.
Awesome. All right, let's go on to pro-life. Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
So I'm both. It's a tough position, so I'll explain it. I actually refer to myself as anti-abortion. My personal conviction, 100%, is pro-life. I have 2 daughters. I intend to raise them with a pro-life position. Anybody who's ever asked my counsel or my opinion on this, I've always taken a pro-life. Well, I shouldn't say always. I now take a pro-life status, and I think it's important to point out. When I was in college, I'll admit I actually walked in a now parade for pro-choice. But
hey, the science wasn't settled then.
Well,
we've got years of embryology.
Wait a minute.
Hey, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. You got me there.
But when my oldest daughter was in utero, and I went to the doctor, and I heard her heartbeat for the first time, there was no going back. There was no going back.
That is a great reason to be pro-life.
It is. It's amazing. So, so beyond my personal conviction, I certainly do not support any public funding for any abortions whatsoever. I think a perfect example of that is Planned Parenthood. I think they need to divest their abortion practice from the other very good things that they actually do for women's health. They bring it on themselves. Until they choose to divest, then they're choosing to not get public funds, as far as I'm concerned. So no public funds for abortion. But I do stop at criminalization because I believe the only way we're ever going to win this war and actually get abortion to go away or be as minimal as possible is to let it be legal, but then use our time that we get to talk about this to convince people not to have abortions. If we just take the position that say you can't, how many people do you know that when you tell them they can't do something, they turn right around and make sure they do it? So that's where I come from. I call that my anti-abortion position. My conviction is certainly pro-life, but I guess I'm pro-choice ultimately when it comes down to letting the woman make the decision.
I think that's a very interesting answer, and I think it's fair.
Thank you.
Um, how about the NSA? Where do you stand on the NSA? Is this a program that needs more oversight? Are do we need it? What is your stance on the NSA?
Definitely needs more oversight. Having any agency now, granted, when an agency of that directive is doing their operations, you certainly want to keep a oversight as closely held as possible initially, as things then need to expand beyond that. But the amount of oversight, which has been nil to this point, needs to be expanded for sure. Should they be doing things? They should be doing things. What they're exactly doing, I think we're finding that out as time goes along, and we need to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
All right. Second Amendment. I know that you are a supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm curious. Uh, is there ever a circumstance where you would vote to put more restrictions on our right to bear arms?
Well, not that I know of. I think that the restrictions lead to simply criminalizing an act that, by definition, therefore, anybody who falls into that act. So someone who owns a gun, for example, will be a criminal. So gun control doesn't work. That's where it comes from. I think you may have heard me say this before. I've said in other interviews. I love to brag about the fact that I have a strong pro-Second Amendment position. But not only have I never fired a gun in my life, I've never actually held a real firearm in my life. Um, I come at this from the understanding that gun control doesn't work. If you try to control guns, only the criminals have it. You can go back to the more extreme examples, Nazi Germany, where the guns were taken away from the citizens. That was one of the first things that Hitler did. Or you can go to Chicago in modern day and see what happens when you have gun control. You have the highest violent crime rates in the country. So it doesn't work. Then I love, let's talk about Senator Booker a little bit on this issue for a second. When he was the mayor of Newark, what was his big plan? We're going to do a gun buyback. So, okay, Mr. Criminal, here's a couple $100. Give us your old junky gun. Go buy a good new one. What do you think the criminal's going to do with that money? He's going to go take his family out for pizza? No. So, gun control doesn't work. Gun buybacks are just ridiculous in every single way. And we need to make sure that the people have the right to bear arms so they can protect themselves. They can protect against a tyrannical government. We need to make sure that that doesn't go away. I cannot foresee any situation where I would vote to limit that in any way.
Awesome. All right. The last thing I want to talk about, and since you mentioned Senator Booker, this is something that he's been talking about recently: unemployment extension.
Sure.
I know your campaign slogan is empowerment, not entitlement.
Thank you.
I think that this falls under the latter. So what is your stance on unemployment?
Well, you hit it right on the head. I don't think that our goal should be extending unemployment benefits. The government has finite resources, and certainly I think it should have fewer resources in the financial department. We should be cutting taxes and working with less and smaller government. So with that, we don't have the resources to provide everything to everybody. We can't be in the business of providing unemployment to everybody and extending the benefits when people are out there. So what we need to do is focus on using those limited resources to create more jobs, to get government out of the way, because once you do that and people can finally get back to work, then they can not only become a productive member of society taking care of their family, but they won't be draining resources that are necessary for people that have fallen on temporary hard times. So I'm certainly not saying that I'm opposed to unemployment altogether. No, as a society, we come together and we take care of people in a temporary situation. But what's important to use the government resources to do is to grow jobs and get government out of the way and out of keeping jobs from being created.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's move on to your race. Right now, you are in a contested primary with no real front runner at the moment. Why should we pick you in the state of New Jersey over your competitors?
Okay. Well, first and foremost, because we have to look at who's coming down the pipe, Cory Booker. And we have to take into consideration who can energize both the base and the independents in New Jersey, and maybe even a few Democrats, because he has some issues in his own party. But certainly, no one's going to be able to beat Senator Booker just by getting the base of Republicans and the conservative base mobilized. So I hopefully have convinced you as the representative of the Conservative Union that I have a conservative value base. That said, typically the way I present myself, I can encourage and get the support of independents as well. And that's where we're going to come at this election. We're going to come at it from three sides against one: the conservative angle, the libertarian angle to some extent as well. I've had a bunch of people who have been involved with libertarian positions in the past, and they seem to realize that you need to align with the main party if you want to take that somewhere, and I can bring them into the fold. And then the independents as well. So that's the first thing, and I think I'm the guy who can do that because of both my youth and the way that I can have a youth outreach. And I've done a great job, I believe, in talking to the young Republican committees around the state and the college Republicans around the state. I actually have a youth coordinator on my campaign staff, so that's a big focus of my campaign. But more important and overriding all is my message of hope. That I go out and I tell people that the Republican Party is the party that believes that people can succeed. We're the party whose principles are positive. Somehow, we've been painted the other way around. We've been given this sort of label as the party of no, the party of negativity, and I'm not claiming it's not well deserved. I'm claiming it doesn't marry with our actual principles. I've heard my competitors out there, and I do believe in Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. I don't like to talk badly about my competition, but in this direct question, I will say I have heard them speak. They do come across as angry. I'm not angry. I'm determined. All right. There's a big difference there.
I like that distinction.
Thank you.
You know what? Let's transition from that because
Okay.
this is.
I can go on forever. So
Absolutely. We are going to move over now to you are. I mean, the reason why you're in this primary is because you want a shot at Cory Booker in November.
Absolutely.
How do you intend to transition your campaign from the primary, from getting from addressing us in the conservative camp to growing the party and sell the message of conservatism to voters in the general?
Well, so that's a perfect segue from what I was just saying, that my message is one that the Republican Party can be embraced by people who traditionally would not think they can because of what they've heard or learned in the past. I want to break that image and break that mold and show that we are the party of hope. I talk about on the stump that we're the party of hope and optimists. How many people, we blow it every January, I'll tell you, when we don't talk about the fact that Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican. My gosh, how many people don't know that? It's a key fact, and every January we celebrate his birthday. It'd be a great opportunity to build the party. So I actually believe that part of my campaign strategy is to grow the party. So how am I going to transition? It should be an easy transition because right now I'm trying to appeal to the party by explaining that we're going to be a big tent. We're going to bring more people in, and we're going to not have a message that says no. We're going to have a message that says yes. Yes, we want to empower individuals. The job of government is not simply to help the governed. It is to help the governed to succeed. And that's what I'm about. And that's a message that should play well and has played well. I've had numerous people. I'll tell you, last year when I was collecting the signatures on my petition, I would have had a lot more than 600 if you didn't have to be a registered Republican. I had numerous people say, you know what, I like what you're saying, and I'll vote for you in the general election, but I'm not a Republican. I can't sign your petition. Right. Well, guess what we're doing this year? We carry the change of party affiliation form with us when we go out and we collect petitions.
That is very smart, and that's good to bring along from previous experiences. All right, on the subject of selling the brand, selling conservatism, I want you to right now take an issue that you are particularly passionate about and sell me on that issue as if I were a moderate or an independent voter.
Okay. So Like as I've said before, we are the party that believes that you can succeed. I want to have policies and programs for the government that help produce opportunities for success, not to make you just be comfortable if you fail. I know you. I'm looking at you, and I know that you would like to work. You want to have a job, right? You don't want someone else to take care of your family. You believe in the sense of personal pride that comes from taking care of yourself and your own. And as such, which party better is going to help, and which candidate, per se, is going to better help you get there? The candidate that believes the way that we provide a better future for everybody is to bring everybody down to where the definition of better is not where it is today, or the candidate and the party that want to raise everybody up, that we want to help people climb up out of failure and misery into success.
All right. On that note, what does conservatism mean to you?
That's a good question. No one's actually asked me that yet. To me, I've thought of conservatism as a group of values that are pragmatic, positive, that they're based more from the intellect than emotion. I was just talking with some people the other day that it's very easy to have a liberal perspective as what's the term, a bleeding heart, to just come at it from an emotional, compassionate perspective, because you don't have to think through the consequences of taking that position. As a conservative, I think the key difference is we think through the consequences, and when we find that the consequence is a completely unsustainable system, we say, how do we achieve similar goals in a system that is sustainable? And that's where things like, we're going to help, teach a man to fish, because if you just give out fish, you don't have enough fishermen to give fish to everybody, right? You need to teach more fishermen. And I'm not going to butcher that analogy any further.
All right, no, that was actually one of the questions I was very interested in hearing you answer. Moving from that, and I think that was a very good description of conservatism. But in light of that, and there's really good things that you've mentioned, you would think that more people would be willing to vote conservatively. We have lost the last two presidential elections, and despite a lot of effort, we have not regained the Senate. Why, given how you feel about conservatism, do you think the GOP loses?
So I think this comes back to, and this is the cornerstone of my campaign strategy, which are three things. Relentlessly positive. That's how I describe myself. I'm relentlessly positive. I have a positive message. And I think the number one reason that we've been losing is that we've been branded as the party of no and negativity and anger. And that's not us. And that should, or at least that's not me. And I don't, and when I talk to the rank and file, even the elected officials and other party officials that I've spoken with, they aren't that way either. It just, for some reason, we've been branded that way. I'm not gonna accept that premise. Let me put it that way. I'm relentlessly positive. I'm going to bring my positive message and spread that as far and wide as I can. The two other pieces that come together as to why I don't think we've been successful are minority and youth outreach. And
well,
those
you know what? That's my. Let's go with this, because my next question on my list right here is enough about how we lose. I won't want to hear about how we lose anymore. Let's talk about how we win.
So that's
specifically among voters who are not traditionally Republicans. How do you intend to broaden our base specifically with groups that don't currently vote Republican? We're talking about, African Americans. We're talking about the youth vote. We're talking about single females.
Sure.
How do we do that?
So I think one of the big ways is exactly what I said. We have to reach out to them and look for the fact that a lot of, especially you look in minority communities, you find a lot of people with conservative values, the values that we were talking about a minute ago, but we just write them off and we let the other party take them for granted. And this message that I'm looking to spread, that we believe in you, we want to help you succeed, and if you can understand that we have similar values, so it's worth voting with us, then I'm going to be taking this message right into the heart of the places that Senator Booker takes for granted. Listen, I only live 10 minutes from Newark. I'm going to be going into Newark. I'm going to be going into New Brunswick. I'm going to be going into Camden. I'm going into these places just like I looked you in the eye before. I'm going to look people in the eye and say, I know you want a job. I know you want to work and take care of your own. And no one's told them that. The Democrats go in there and say, you know what? I know what you want. You want us to take care of you. We're going to help you out. We're going to make sure the government programs don't go away. They don't want people to take care of them. They're grown-ups. They're not babies. They want people to take care. They don't want people to take care of them. Excuse me. They want people to help them to succeed so they can take care of themselves. And that's it. It's going to boil down to a ground game. Who's going to get the boots on the ground and get in there and talk to these people and let them understand where we're coming from. And we have failed miserably in the past at that, both because we haven't executed a ground game, but because also on a strategic perspective, we have not focused that. We have not had the right messengers
in fact,
or the right message. And I think that's the biggest contrast between me and my opponents and me and the past of our party.
Well, I certainly want to, if you are going to be doing an event in Newark or Camden, I want to know about it, and I will be there with my camera to document it.
Okay.
Because that is a big deal to this party going forward. Speaking of big deals to this party, we have been tainted by this war on women narrative smear campaign, but it's been bolstered by candidates like Todd Akin and Richard Murdoch flubbing questions on abortion. How you already addressed what your stance on abortion is. How will you address the topic if it comes up?
So we're actually massaging that messaging a little bit because, as you heard, my answer is a little lengthy right now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, to the group that needs to hear it, I'll explain the fact that I am ultimately pro-choice. I'm not going to take away their right to choose. I'm going to try to convince them to choose to not have an abortion. And I think that's the biggest difference in the situation there. And I certainly, coming from a perspective like that, I don't think we'll find Todd Akin's foot in my mouth.
I'm very hopeful that that is not the case.
I'm hopeful too, because that would be gross, right?
Actually, on that note, I also want to point out that Cory Booker, I think something that he took some real hits on in the previous campaign last year against Lonigan, was that he's supported by NARAL and that he supports abortions up until the third trimester, which partial birth abortions, some seriously gross, scary stuff. But I'm sure you're working on your messaging right now, so we'll leave that be for the time being. The demographic that's most repelled by those comments is unmarried women. How will you repair our image problem in that demographic, and how will you fight for the female vote?
By being handsome and good looking, right? That's what it's all about. That's how Cory Booker does it. No, so for certain, I will make sure that the hot button issues, as you said, are abortion and jobs, and letting them take care of their children. I read a great article after the 2012 election, and in the debriefing that was going on, and analyzing this issue that went wrong and that issue. And one of the things that was pointed out was that a lot of single women tended to vote on the Democratic side because the Democratic message was, if you fail, we'll make sure you're still taken care of. Well, I want to be clear. I said it before. My goal was not to eliminate things like unemployment or to eliminate helping people that are in need. It's just to focus on helping them take care of themselves. And that's the message, because you know what? Look at most single moms. They're struggling. Listen, I've been playing the single dad role actually now for several months, and I can tell you that it's no easy thing to do. But I've held down a job. I'm running for the United States Senate while every morning I get my kids up for school and I put them to bed at night. It's doable. Single moms, they've got it. They can work hard. They know what it takes to do that, and most of them are willing to do that. They just need someone who actually believes in them and wants to help them. And again, that's how I.
Yes. This interview was almost rescheduled due to noisy kids. If the snow came down and snowed you in. Let's move on to social media. I think that's an important topic. First, how important do you think the use of social media is in political campaigns?
Well, I'm running against Senator McTweet, right? So we certainly consider it very important. We launched our Facebook and Twitter profiles months ago, And I think right now, and honestly, I have some staffers that help with a lot of this, but I believe we're on Instagram and on LinkedIn and obviously
That was my
Google.
next question. My next question was what is your social media presence and what networks are you on? So it's good to know that you're on Instagram and on some of these newer media formats. I know you're also on Google Plus. You have a YouTube account, so
We're going to be releasing in the next few weeks a series of YouTube interviews with some of my supporters. You know, a lot of times you see the candidate getting up and talking. Listen, we've been talking for a while here. People can get bored of listening to me. So we're going to get my supporters in talking about why they support me as well.
I think you've been very entertaining. I think that the answers, I think the questions are a little bit different from what what you usually would encounter on an interview like this. Finally, on social media, how often do you yourself use the platforms? How often are you the one behind the screen tweeting or Facebooking?
Okay. Most of the time, I will say it's split between me and my staff. So it's not that I have other people doing it for me. I'm intimately involved. I'll admit to probably being a little bit of a Facebook addict, maybe, before I had to commit so much of my time to running. So I'm intimately familiar with Facebook and how it works. But certainly we spread. Listen, there's too much work for one person to do. I'd love to find out how many people work on Senator Booker's Twitter account because he's tweeting, 100 times a day. I don't quite even understand how that's possible.
Right.
But no, sometimes when you get a retweet, it's me hitting the button. We actually have had, we're trying to work out also to make sure that all 3 or 4 of us that are involved in it aren't hitting retweet all. So we're not all hitting it, 4 times.
Right.
But I certainly am. When you're conversing, I mean, you and I converse through Facebook messaging.
Absolutely.
When you're conversing with me, if it's me, then you're talking to me. You're not talking with a campaign staffer. But I can't promise that it will always be. Let me put it this way: it will always be me if it's my account. I can't promise you that you will always be able to get a hold of me.
Right, there we go. That is a good explanation. Briefly, because it's something that we don't really talk about, but it is social media. Your website. How do you? I think that of the 4 websites that are currently going, I personally like yours
Thank you.
the best. But that's my own opinion.
One of
Certainly,
my
people
one
go
of
and
my
check out.
opponents still has his website up from when he ran as an independent in 2012. So
Yeah.
maybe we won't even count that one.
Yeah, probably best not to. What is behind your design there? You've got a few issues there. Is it fully rolled out? What can we expect to see from your website going forward?
So what you're seeing now was the initial rollout, and there will be a complete restructuring. We're going to be changing a little bit of our branding to focus more on my role as the future of the party. So there, the scoop for you right there. We just pre-announced that here, but
Awesome.
we're going to be focusing on that, and we don't have an exact timeline on it yet. But the website, listen, I actually we didn't talk about this too much. We talked about the fact I'm running my family's decorative concrete
Right.
business.
This is right.
My degree was actually in computer science and engineering, and I was a computer consultant for a while. So web design and web stuff. I had my first web page in 1996. So
Nice.
I'm a evangelist for web and using the web for getting information out. Thank you. I think that's probably why you found that our website is probably the one that's on the top of its game, or at least close as best can be where we are today.
I'm trying to be impartial here as far as these candidates go, but when you look at the websites, it's really,
Yeah.
the contrast is
And,
pretty stark.
and I'm going to say kudos to. I have a staff. I actually have a team of people working with me. That's
Right.
one of the you asked how we're going to do this. I have already experienced the fact that people are willing to help and volunteer and support with my campaign, and so I'm very confident that going forward, as we get posts. Right now, we're focused on petitions and conventions.
Right.
But after the month of March, when we're focused on the primary election and then beyond that, the general, I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to have a huge support base, and this is a perfect example already how that's fallen into place.
All right. Well, we'll let you get back to your petitions in just a bit. I've got a few more questions here for you.
Okay.
The topic. This is the last big political. Oh whoa. This is tough question. The topic of the 2014 election is going to be Obamacare. I mean, that's pretty much. I think we can agree on that. How you fight it will be a determining factor in whether you win or lose. However, wanting to repeal it without offering an alternative might be a vulnerability. What
Okay.
plan do you support to replace Obamacare?
So I have not decided on a specific plan, but any plan that I
Okay.
support will focus on two key things at least. Number one, tort reform. That is the main driver for health care expenses. Actually, let me back that up a little bit. Not to take that away, I certainly believe that. But I think the first and most important thing is we need to talk about this issue properly. Right now, what we have is a law, maybe called the Affordable Care Act, but it's not anything about making health care more affordable. What it should be called is the Mandatory Insurance Act, because that's what it does. It mandates that people get insurance. The premise was if everybody has insurance, well, then I guess maybe they will have more affordable health care, forgetting the fact that the basic plans that people might only be able to afford will have huge deductibles that will cost them the same out of pocket, maybe even more than they were paying before. So it doesn't make anything more affordable, especially since now they'll be paying premiums that they may not have been considering paying for. So the first, it's like step zero almost, before you even get to step one, is let's define the issue properly. Let's talk about health care. How are we going to make health care more affordable? And the number one thing we need to do is tort reform. We need to take care of the fact that when the lawyers get involved, the doctors get scared, and the prices for everything go up because they do more tests than are necessary, and we need to get that under control. The,
All right.
se-
Oh,
the,
sorry.
yeah, no, I was going to say the second aspect, I mentioned there were two, uh,
Yeah.
was innovation. I told you, I come from an engineering background. I'm very into innovation, and I think new technologies, both in the medical practice of medicine itself and in the actual administration. I was in a doctor's office recently, and I had to check in on an iPad. So it was great. They gave me a little tablet computer, and I had all the check-in process, no more papers. So everything was smoother and easier, and they were able to streamline their operation, cutting down some of their costs, as well as the fact that certainly medical technology can help with bringing down the costs of practicing medicine in general. So those are two areas where I really want to focus: innovation and tort reform.
Awesome. I think that that's a fair response. You're still working on what plan you're going to endorse or might come up with your own. All right, we are done with the political questions. I want to ask you now, because one of the problems with these elections, people get burnt out and they think of people as politicians and like some sort of robots that just annoy you. Basically, that's what they do.
I needed some
Um,
water. I'm not a robot.
Yes, awesome. Um, so to kind of humanize you as a person, not just a politician, what's on your playlists? Who's your favorite musician?
So let's see. I listen to Pandora all the
Okay.
time, and I have probably the most eclectic Pandora station you could ever imagine. 1 minute it will be playing Gershwin, and the next it'll be playing Metallica. It'll play Britney Spears, and then the Beatles. It's all over the place. It's got a little bit of everything. I have this weird liking for Irish, like Celtic pop music. I don't know what that's all about, but I like the violins maybe. I like that. So yeah, it's all over the place. There's almost no genre that I don't like. I'll even admit this. I don't know if I should, but I was in a Jewish rap band when I was in high school.
There's
So
nothing wrong with that. There's
there you
absolutely nothing wrong with that.
go.
What was the last concert you went to? We've got a lot of venues here in New Jersey.
Oh wow. Well, I think it was a little while ago, but I guess it'll give me some New Jersey pride when I say I believe it was Bon Jovi.
Man, really?
Yeah.
Uh,
Listen,
I'm sorry. That's my own personal taste.
but you know what? I have two little kids. I don't get to go to concerts too much anymore.
That's
But I do enjoy the theater. So we do take them to the theater sometimes.
cool. All right. What's your proudest accomplishment as a small business owner?
Um, so a few years back, at the same time, we pulled off probably four historic jobs, and so I'm very proud of what was going on. At the same time, we were working on both the Manhattan-based Home Depot stores, the Tropicana in Atlantic City. If you've been down there, or you know anyone who's been down there, the entire quarter, we did all the flooring there. And Great Adventure, we did the entryway to Great Adventure from basically where you get dropped off through the inside, then a couple of areas throughout the park as well. And for many of the people who do the type of work we do around the country, we partner with other people around the country sometimes. Any one of those jobs might have been a year's worth of work. we had all 4 of them going on simultaneously, and we completed them all in about a 6-week period. So,
Wow.
yeah, we
Wow. That
actually had
is
T-shirts made up. I was very, very proud of that as a professional accomplishment. Uh, so
that
that's
is that is excellent. I lied. There is one more political question.
oh, uh-oh.
What current politician do you most respect? Current politician do you most respect?
So I'm going to tell you my answer to that is I'm going to dodge the question. I'll be
Okay.
um, because you know what, the goal is to get down to Washington, and I certainly don't want to have to meet up with another senator and already be a step below in terms of footing by having admitted that they were my idol. I can say that I have a huge respect for everybody in the party because they're all trying their best in their own way. Sometimes, if you're not involved in doing this on a day-to-day basis, it gets hard to understand the practical aspects of being a
Right.
legislator. And, while I applaud the angry folks like Ted Cruz who's getting out there and, stirring things up, I also can say that I can respect John Boehner for trying to be a peacekeeper and trying to work and get things done in his own way. It may not be effective, and maybe we have to work on that, but I certainly I think they're all trying their hardest as best they
It
can.
would help if he had some more people in the Senate to aid him.
Exactly.
The most contentious question of this entire interview: New Jersey has more than a few choices for sports teams. Who do you root for?
None of them.
Oh, you're gonna pull a Christie on me. I just
Uh,
feel it.
I'll defend that position. So when I grew up, I actually was a big sports fan. Unfortunately, not for New York-based teams. I had this penchant for LA. So I was an LA type fan, and then I wound up going to UCLA. And
Ah,
when I went out there and I went to a school that's so into sports, I really, when in the Super Bowl, you know who I rooted for? I looked and I said, which team has more Bruins on their team? That's who I rooted for. And to tell you the truth, I think it came down to, I don't think either of them had any Bruins. I think one of them had, I rooted um, for Denver specifically because if you know, the coach of Seattle was the former coach for USC, and I certainly
right.
could not root for him. So that's sort of how I make my decisions in terms of rooting for teams. But I love sports. My girls, I'll sit with them and we'll watch UCLA. And yeah, we watch the big sports, baseball. I'm sorry, basketball and football. But we'll watch women's soccer and gymnastics if it's on, and volleyball, whatever. And it's definitely something I enjoy. But if I had to, I'll take my kids to see the Newark Bears before I'm going to shell out the bucks to go see the Yankees. It's more fun. You
That
get to sit right behind home plate, and it's a greater atmosphere. So,
I like that answer. I do really like that answer. It's better than you saying the Dallas Cowboys.
oh,
That would have been instantly. You'd be crossed off my list. I'd be voting for somebody else. Uh,
I would never go there. Trust me.
or the Patriots. The Patriots do. Last question. What is your favorite Jersey diner? It is a huge part of culture here in New Jersey. What
Okay.
is your favorite Jersey diner?
That's a good question. I've been, you know what? Especially being on the campaign trail, we've been eating at
Yes.
diners all over the place. Which one is my favorite? I do like my local, the Red Oak Diner down in Hazlitt here. We just had a staff meeting there yesterday morning. It's a very good diner. I like it a lot. Top's Diner up in Harrison, I guess it might be considered East Newark, is also a phenomenal diner close to where I live. And if you've traveled around the state enough, then you've got to know that probably the top of the list has to be Missouri's. If you haven't been there, you don't know it. If you think you're going to eat your entire meal when you go to Missouri's, you forget about the fact that you're going to want dessert after you walk in the door, and the meals are so huge. So I've got a few favorites. Depends on where we are.
All right, that's a very good question. Didn't pander. It was that was nice. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate you so much being here and answering these questions,
Thank you.
participating in this interview. Uh, Before you go, I want you to please hit all of your social media. Let everybody know where we can find you on the internet.
Actually, that's exactly why I was about a minute late checking in. We were trying to share your posting on Facebook, and for some reason I kept clicking share. I kept clicking share. As I said, sometimes it's me doing it, um,
Right.
and it wasn't sharing. So we'll take care of that now. We'll get it shared and absolutely, spreading the message. That's what it's all about.
Awesome. I'm so happy to have been here with Brian Goldberg running for U.S. Senate in New Jersey as a Republican. I'm J.D. Bryden of the Conservative Union, the Free Radical Network, and the Party of Choice. And I hope that you guys out there find yourselves a little bit more informed on the primary situation here in New Jersey. We strive to get more primary interviews out there for you very soon. So until next time, we'll see you later.